Just when you thought it was all over in regards to the controversy around the Game Awards, there seems to be even more to unpack here. Let's break this all down. Up next. What up guys, this is Keighly and I'm here to give you the lowdown on all things gaming. And if you're new here, feel free to subscribe to this channel for weekly video game news content. Drop a like on the video and welcome to the level up. Alright, so we covered pretty much any and all of the problems that loom over the Game Awards. Ranging from, in my opinion, very flawed nominees lists and what appears to be just plain incompetence when it comes to researching who they're actually nominating. Now, with all that being said, every single year without fail, this event is rather polarizing. And that's a given, seeing how everyone has differing opinions in the world of gaming. But this year especially goes way beyond that normal level of irritation online. Now, one category we covered that is very flawed in my opinion, and that's the category of Best Indie Game. I also want to stress the quality of Dave the Diver has never fallen into question here. Mainly because if this game was taken out of the Best Indie Game category and placed somewhere else, no one would really be talking about this. Now, we talked about how the game up for nomination, being Dave the Diver, isn't classified by its own studio's boss as an indie game. In turn, the community raised questions, albeit valid ones, if we're nominating games based off what looks like an indie game versus what actually is an indie game. So fast forward to today, and Geoff Keighly, who runs this whole event, was asked about this situation, and this is what he had to say. Quote, "Look, it's a great question. Independent can mean different things to different people. And it's sort of a broad term, right? I mean, you could argue, does independent mean the budget of the game? Does independent mean where the source of financing was? Is it based on the team size? Is it the kind of independent spirit of the game? Meaning kind of a smaller game? That's different. Everyone has their own opinions about this, and we really defer to our jury, 120 global media outlets, that vote on these awards to make that kind of determination of if something is independent or not. You know, in other industries, sometimes there are determining factors. I think in the film industry, there's like, the budget can't be above this amount of dollars if it's an independent film. I'm sorry, but I'm just sitting here shaking my head right now. He had weeks to formulate a good response to all this, and to put people at rest about this, and this is what he came up with? He's basically saying independent games are a broad term. I am no genius here, but that term seems pretty direct if you ask me. And this is how you know my blood is boiling here, but I pulled up the official definition of independent, just in case you needed it. Here it is. Free from outside control. Not depending on another's authority, not depending on another's livelihood or subsistence. And as for those 120 global media outlets, he's just straight up deflecting the blame to them. At the end of the day, Geoff is the one that put this event together and he's the one hosting it. So in my humble opinion, he has to take at least some accountability for all the problems they've had over this year. And honestly, it's not like they're just invalid issues people are having. These are straight up problems with nominations. As the face of the Game Awards and as a leader, he should have taken steps to address the problem and potentially even fix it, or at the bare minimum, own up that you screwed up here. Now to kind of do a little crossover here, bear with me because this might turn into a rant. In professional sports, the best players on the team tend to take the blame if the problem with the team isn't even their own fault. I'm a New York Jets fan, and the last season, our quarterback Zach Wilson was one of the worst in the game's history. After a certain game, he was asked, "Did you let your team down?" And he responded in such a smug way, saying, "No, I don't think I did." Fast forward to this year, when the team has had some bad games, he now responds in such a different demeanor. And this is where he owns up to his mistakes, and even if that's not on him. Now, as a fan of the team and as a fan of the Game Awards, this paints him in a different light compared to last year when I'm suddenly less angry at him and can kind of level out my frustrations with the team. But back to the Game Awards, I think those outlets just looked at the game at first glance, seen it looked like an indie game, and just kind of voted on it. Now, that might not be the best look for the Game Awards, but it could be an honest mistake. To that, Geoff could have came out and say, hey, it's our mistake and it won't happen again. But that's not what he did here. Instead, he made an excuse of it's based off looks and pointed the finger. So by using that logic, let's take a look at how games look. Back in 2020, Xbox and Moon Studios released a game called Ori and the Will of the Wisp. This game at first glance does have this indie feel about it, and the game is being handled by an independent studio, but it has the backing of Xbox. You see what I'm getting at here? That year, Ori didn't qualify for Best Indie Game. That list was comprised of games like Fall Guys, Hades, Splunky 2, and Carry On. Based off of quality and looks alone, by Geoff's definition, this game should have been up for that award. But at the same time, we all knew this game had the backing of Microsoft, thus making it a non-indie title. So why are we having the same issue 3 years later with Dave the Diver? I think honestly the panel had no clue the game was published by Nexon, and that's okay to admit. Plus, comparing an Xbox published game versus one from Nexon, I think the Xbox one will get far more attention. And not admitting to the problems at this year's show makes the showcase appear worse than it already does. And this brings up more questions around him, his showcase, and his voters. Mainly because he's just kind of allowing this to happen and doubling down and fully committing to this hiccup with zero accountability. To me, it just appears as if he doesn't care and is doubling down to attempt to defend his reputation. Moving forward, this brings up a lot of doubt in regards to how this prestigious showcase handles its awards. It's also why I always stress the point the Game Awards should not be the end-all be-all when it comes to your opinion in gaming. But with all that being said, I'm going to pass this question off to you guys. What are your thoughts on how Geoff handled all this? Does this change your viewpoint on a show like this, or did you always think that way? But that about does it here. I've been Kalo. I gave you the lowdown on all things gaming, and if you're new here, feel free to subscribe to this channel for weekly video game news content. Drop a like on the video, and this has been the Level Up.